British put siege on this town of St. Augustine, that the town all fled into this fort. So the people from the town fled into this fort, and you can see by the people walking around how big this place is. It's not very, very large, but 1,200 people were living here during the siege.
So this is a national park. So if you have a national park pass, you get in with your pass, an annual pass. If not, it's $15 per person. For an annual pass, it's $80 a person. Then it's good for a year. So this is the drawbridge that goes on into the fort. And this is, our guide was telling us about this structure is to protect the front door, which is right there. And it's all made of stone or a natural coquina, which is taken out of the bay. And when they take it out of the bay, it's super soft, where they can literally cut it with a saw, and then they age it for a year, and it becomes super hard, but yet
By letting it dry in the sun.
But yet cannonball proof, because when a cannonball hits it, it kind of sinks into it or bounces off of it, but doesn't act like concrete and shatter the whole wall.
Because of the air pockets. And you can see up here or here, like all the little shells that this is made of, and there would be some of the air pockets. So this is just really sediment.
Sediment, yeah, that's right.
Sediment in the river that they cut into these stones and let them cured for a year, and here it is. Pretty crazy. So they said that when the British put siege on this town of St. Augustine, that the town all fled into this fort. So the people from the town fled into this fort, and you can see by the people walking around how big this place is. It's not very, very large, but 1,200 people were living here during the siege. And they brought in all their livestock and everything also. So this was a place, they said they had 3 wells, so they were able to get fresh water. But all the townspeople were living here during the siege, which I think was 2 months, they said. It's about 56 days.
That's a long time for 1,200 people to be living in a small courtyard area.
So this is where the pay chest, where they used to pay their people and important documents. This was their treasury room, where literally their safe room, where they would put all their important money and paper goods, and everything was stored in this room.
Kind of like the vault.
And these rooms are very cool, because I mean, it's not very hot outside, but the rooms are definitely cooler with all this coquina stone. So this guy, his name is Osceola. And as you travel around the U.S., there's Osceola streets. There is in Clearwater where we live, and I never knew what it meant or whatever. But apparently this Indian, his name is Osceola, and he resisted the United States forced relocation of Indians. So he was totally against that. And he was an Upper Creek, and his father was a Scottish trader. So he was actually both Indian and Scottish. So he was an Upper Creek Indian and a Scottish trader. So he urged the Florida Seminoles to fight for their lands.
So I'm finding more and more that a lot of history stemmed from here, which makes sense because this was the first established colony.
Yes, this was the first established colony. So we've got Indian history here, we've got African American enslaved history here, we've got European history here, Spanish, British. It's a great place to come and learn about the origins of the United States. So this is Pedro Menendez, and this is what our guide was telling us, that he was sent over by Spain when they heard that the British were coming over. So he was sent over to actually form St. Augustine, to populate Fort Augustine or St. Augustine as a colony. So he was the original person that came over here and brought people to populate St. Augustine. And he was the person that defended it when the Huguenots landed. The people who were fleeing French persecution came from France and settled up in northern Florida, a little bit north of here, maybe 40 miles. And he was sent up there also to defend it and take it back from them. And we heard the story of that. So this is the guy. Interesting. So what we found out, and I find fascinating, is that you need to look over here. I'm trying to point this way. See that over here?
The entrance to the bay.
The entrance to the bay where the British ships would have come in. And the British ships were stuck out there because they couldn't come into this bay because it wasn't deep enough. So the bay was only 9 feet deep at the tide, and the British ships needed about 20 feet clearance, and they got stuck at the bay. What they say about the cannons is that they were so good at firing the cannons that even at that distance out there, they could actually hit them. So they had to park way outside of the bay, because when they got into that narrow place, the cannon were so good, and the people who fired it, that they could actually hit the ships as they were coming into the bay. So this was a perfect location. It was the only way they could come in and out of here. And at the time, St. Augustine was surrounded on 3 sides by water. So this was the way that they fortified and held against it. And the big tower there was used in order to spot ships coming in and out.
And you can see how narrow the passageway is out there for the enemy ships to come through. So interesting, what our guide was telling us on earlier is that you can see how the wall goes up, and then on the outside the land is kind of sloped out. So as enemy is coming up that slope, they're always at the same level as they're moving, easy targets.
Yeah, so they're
as
not
they're
going
moving.
down.
That's why it's sloped up to the wall instead of being a wall.
Right.
Genius. You can see how thick the wall is here, and how a cannonball would have a very difficult time penetrating that. And the coquina being absorbent of the cannonballs. Either they would stick in it or they would just bounce off of it, unlike concrete or stone where it would reverberate through it and destroy the wall.
Walking around the fort, and we were standing there, you could see that the different holes that were in the fort, and what it would have looked like back in the day is more like this. So there would be a cannon actually in each of these holes. So think about the number of cannons that would be fortifying this location here. Just on this one side of the wall, there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this one side. So 5, and then as you look over there, you can see it's also the same. So there would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over there, and then another 5 back over here. So this thing was quite a stronghold. So this kind of gives you a great layout. St. Augustine is not that large. It's a really walkable city, which I really enjoy. So you can see the spires over there, which are part of the old Ponce de Leon Hotel, and which is now Flagler College. And that tall structure over there is it was actually the treasury that opened in 1929 before the crash, the first bank here. Banks were close to the port, so they could tax the ships that were coming in, as were the government buildings. But after that tall building was built, the city decided they didn't want any more tall buildings and put a moratorium on it and said buildings can only be so tall. So that's why you can see the skyline. There's not that many buildings.